Hello and welcome back to Read This Next with Nicole and Sam. This is Sam, everybody. She's filling in for Ruth while Ruth's on vacation, lucky gal, who's filling in for Laura while she's on vacation. So this week we're going to be doing a kind of fun topic. We've done ones that are similar to this before, but not quite as on the nose. So we are doing plague stories. I'll tell you, Sam, Laura and I have had this one in our pocket for a couple years because it never felt quite right to release it. It didn't feel like the right time, given what's going on.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but right now, Sam and I were just talking before we were filming, and for those of you that are big fans of zombies, there is a zombie episode that we filmed before, but with the recent release of The Last of Us, we thought it'd be fun to talk about plagues and plague books again. So, yeah. And Sam, have you or have you not played this game, or do you have the same history as me?
I have not played the game. I have watched playthroughs of the game on the good old internet.
Yeah.
So I have a general understanding. And I told Nicole before, I've not yet watched any of the show that's come out. I don't know if they're doing like a episode per week kind of thing. I've not watched it yet, but I'm excited.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, we have a few weeks ago, Sam and I were talking with another coworker about how we all enjoy video games, and Sam and I were both like, I watch other people play it because it's too stressful and scary.
No horror games for me.
No, and that's how I watched slash played Last of Us 1 and 2 was just watching my partner play because I'm a chicken.
That's fair. You're not the only one.
Yeah, I'm not alone. There's a whole reason there's all these Let's Plays out there. Okay, so that being said, let's get right into it. Did you want me to start with the first one?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So the first one is probably the closest to the actual Last of Us plot. Solely based on the cover, you can see it's mushrooms and stuff like that. So this is called The Genius Plague by David Walton. And the description is in this science fiction thriller, brothers are pitted against each other as a pandemic threatens to destabilize world governments by exerting a subtle mind control over survivors. Neil Johns has just started his dream job as a codebreaker in the NSA when his brother Paul, a mycologist, who is a mushroom scientist, goes missing on a trip to collect samples in the Amazon jungle. Paul returns with a gap in his memory and a fungal infection that almost kills him. But once he recuperates, he has enhanced communication, memory, and pattern recognition. Meanwhile, something is happening in South America. Others, like Paul, have also fallen ill and recovered with abilities they didn't have before. But that's not the only pattern. The survivors, from entire remote Brazilian tribes to American tourists, all seem to be working toward a common, deadly goal. Neil soon uncovers a secret and explains. Nope. Neil soon uncovers a secret and unexplained. I keep wanting to say
It's
unexplained.
a tongue twister, that one.
Yeah. And unexplained alliance between governments that have traditionally been enemies. Meanwhile, Paul has become increasingly secretive and erratic. Paul sees the fungus as the next stage of human evolution, while Neil is convinced that it's driving its human hosts, I keep wanting to say hostages, to destruction. Brother must oppose brother on an increasingly fraught international stage with stakes. The free will of every human on Earth. Can humanity use this force for good, or are we becoming the pawns of an utterly alien intelligence?
Woof.
Yeah. So, I'm no spoilers for Last of Us, but I think it's very clear that the zombies are mushroom based. Less so in the game than in the movie or TV show,
Yeah.
but they are not nearly as intelligent.
Yeah, and the idea of that spooky,
Yeah.
using them as pawns,
Hmm.
you're making the situation worse, especially if it's for something that's not so good intentioned. So that sounds like a good one.
Yeah, and I'm curious what like their end goal is. Like, is
Yeah.
it, I guess like every virus, the goal is to just survive, but what is the goal in this?
Yeah, yeah. I might add that to a list. I like reading stuff like this,
Yeah.
and that one sounds not too bad, and the cover is really pretty, so
It's very like, yeah, simple, but it gets a lot across. It looks like a brain
Mhm.
stem, but it's a mushroom.
Yeah, nice colors there too, good choice.
Yeah. And then if you're ready, you can move on to the next one.
Okay, so the second one we've got here, it's called Time to Dance, A Time to Die, The Extraordinary Story of the Dancing Plague of 1518. And this one
Ooh.
is by John Waller. And the description of that guy is as follows: the true story of a wild dancing epidemic that brought death and fear to the 16th century city, and the terrifying supernatural beliefs from which it arose. In July 1518, a terrifying and mysterious plague struck the medieval city of Strasbourg. I think that's how you say
I
that.
think so.
Hundreds of men and women danced wildly day after day in the punishing summer heat. They did not want to dance, but could not stop. Throughout August and early September, more and more were seized by the same terrible compulsion. By the time the epidemic subsided, heat and exhaustion had claimed an untold number of lives, leaving thousands bewildered and bereaved, and an endearing enigma for future generations. Drawing on fresh evidence, John Waller's account of the bizarre events of 1518 explains why Strasbourg's dancing plague took place. In doing so, it leads us into a largely vanished world, evoking the sights, sounds, aromas, diseases, and hardships, the fervent supernaturalism, and the desperate hedonism of the late medieval world. At the same time, the extraordinary story this book tells offers rich insights into how people behave when driven beyond the limits of endurance. Above all,
Hmm.
this is an exploration into the strangest capabilities of the human mind and the extremes to which fear and irrationality can lead us.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Yeah. Have you heard of the dancing plague before?
I'm not. This is my first
Really?
time reading anything about it. So while reading the
Whoa.
description, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
um, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Awful,
they
but
believe it
kind of cool.
actually happened. And
Okay.
I think the ongoing theory is that it had to do with like spoiled bread or grain that they were ingesting, but maybe this book has new insights like it
Yeah.
says. But
Well, I
yeah.
could imagine that. Yeah, there's a lot of weird things out there when in the consumed
Mhm.
can cause some really weird stuff to happen, but that is fascinating. I might also have to add that to my list.
Yeah, I know. This is the problem with like this show is simultaneously the worst thing that can happen to you and also the best thing because your TBR, your to be read list gets really big.
Yeah, and I'm a nonfiction gal at heart, so
Yeah. Is the I'm
drawn to
not
that one
sure
for
if this
sure.
one's nonfiction or fiction. It's kind
I
of
don't know.
unclear.
The true story, yeah, maybe it's like a mix of both, where they take on stuff,
Mhm.
information, and kind of make it a fictional story. But
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I
Super
don't know.
cool.
I love it. I will take us on to the next one then. This is by Joe Hill. It's The Fireman. I'm gonna skip that first paragraph. Okay, the fireman is coming. Stay cool. No one knows exactly when it began or where it originated. A terrifying new plague is spreading like wildfire across the country, striking cities one by one: Boston, Detroit, Seattle. The doctors call it Draco Incendia Trichophyton.
All right.
Whoa. To everyone else, it's called Dragon Scale, a highly
Cooler.
contagious, right? That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Better than some other plague names I've heard for sure. A highly contagious, deadly spore that marks its host with beautiful black and gold marks across their skin before causing them to burst into flames. Millions are infected, blazes erupt everywhere, there is no antidote, and no one is safe. Harper Grayson, a compassionate, dedicated nurse, as pragmatic as Mary Poppins, treated hundreds of infected patients before her hospital burned to the ground. Now she's discovered the telltale gold flecked marks on her skin. When the outbreak first began, she and her husband Jacob make I can't read today had made a pact. They would take matters into their own hands if they became infected. To Jacob's dismay, Harper wants to live, at least until the fetus she's carrying comes to term. Drama. Okay.
Plot twist.
Yeah. At the hospital, she witnessed infected mothers give birth to healthy babies and believes hers will be fine too, if she can live long enough to deliver the child. Convinced that his do gooding wife made him sick, Jacob becomes unhinged and eventually abandons her as their placid New England community collapses in terror. The chaos gives rise to ruthless cremation squads, armed, self appointed posses roaming the streets and woods to exterminate those who they believe carry the spore. But Harper isn't as alone as she fears. A mysterious and compelling stranger she briefly met at the hospital, a man in a dirty yellow firefighter's jacket, carrying a hooked iron bar, straddles the abyss between insanity and death. Known as the Fireman, he strolls the ruins of New Hampshire, a madman afflicted with dragon scale who's learned to control the fire within himself, using it as a shield to protect the hunted and as a weapon to avenge the wronged. In the desperate season to come, as the world burns out of control, Harper must learn this fireman's secrets before her life and that of her unborn child goes up in smoke. What a
Wow.
description.
Yeah, it sounds like we got some like almost some like superhero action going on with
Yeah,
his abilities there.
no kidding. That's a very cool. I often wonder when you read a plague book or anything about outbreaks or pandemics or apocalypses, like there's very real things that happen and you're like, "Oh, well how does that why how what about people with braces?
Yeah.
What happens?"
Yeah.
This
What
is
then?
cool.
This is one apocalypse I don't think I would like to be a part of.
No.
Bursting into fire sounds very unpleasant.
Yeah, and especially like the unpredictability of when it'll happen.
Yep,
Yeah.
not for
Dislike.
me.
No, me neither. This
Oh,
next one is like an older YA one. I've never read
mhm.
it, but I know it was very popular when it came out.
Yeah, I've seen this one around a lot, and I used to work at a bookstore, and this was purchased quite a bit.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know anything about it though, so let's see. This next one is called Cinder, and it's by Marissa Mayer, who's super popular author
Mm.
in the YA world. And the description sounds like this. Humans and androids crowd I don't know that word, racious racco streets of New Beijing. A deadly plague ravages the population. From space, a ruthless lunar people watch, waiting to make their move. No one knows that Earth's fate hinges on one girl, Cinder, a gifted mechanic, is a
Ooh.
oh she is a second class citizen with a mysterious past revealed by her stepmother and blamed for her stepsister's illness. But when her life becomes intertwined with the handsome Prince Kai's, she suddenly finds herself at the center of an intergalactic struggle and forbidden attraction. Caught
Ooh.
between duty and freedom, loyalty and betrayal, she must uncover secrets about her past in order to protect her world's future. So some sci-fi action. Okay.
Yeah. And very much like um the traditional YA one special girl falls in love and saves the
Yep.
world, which I
Got some
couldn't get enough of.
romance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could be wrong. I feel like is an she's not an android, but there's something.
Oh no, she's a cyborg. Okay, that's I got confused where I was reading because it cut off right at the end. Okay, so Cinder, a gifted mechanic, is a cyborg
Oh,
and a
okay.
second class citizen with a
Yeah.
mysterious past.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, there that makes more sense.
And it's kind of it follows the like a Cinderella kind of path. And then I think the next ones in the series loosely follow other. I could be wrong. I'm not
Mm,
going to say that
I
because I could be
believe
wrong.
that. I believe it just based on like the cover. It looks
Yeah.
kind of princessy.
Oh, the first one is for sure
Yeah.
Cinderella. Cinder,
Okay.
right?
Cool. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I don't know if the
All right.
next ones, I feel like they did. I feel like there was ones about other fairy tales, but I could be wrong. Anyways, sounds good. I've always had that one on my list and I've never
Yeah.
read it.
Next up, Cinder.
Yeah. Next up, Cinder on my list. This next one, not a huge fan of the cover, but that's because I don't like eyeballs that
Yeah,
much.
me neither.
This is Karen Russell, Sleep Donation, an insomnia plague. Okay. Do you have insomnia?
I had it real bad when I was a teenager. I've worked at it, but it's an awful thing to deal with.
I
It's awful.
can't.
I don't
Ugh.
wish that plague upon anybody.
No. And then after a certain amount of time, like that'd be really bad
Yep.
worldwide.
Oh yeah.
Okay, here we go. A crisis has swept America. Hundreds of thousands have lost the ability to sleep. Enter the Slumber Corps, a organization that urges healthy dreamers to donate sleep to an insomniac. Under the wealthy and enigmatic Storch brothers, the corps's reach has grown, with outposts in every major US city. Trish Edgewater, whose sister Dory was one of the first victims of the lethal insomnia, has spent the past 7 years recruiting for the Corps. Is it Corps? Like CORPS?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, my bad.
Corpse.
For the Corps? Like
Oh
the
gosh.
Navy Corps? I don't know. Anyways,
I would go with corpse.
okay. But
Yeah.
Trisha's faith, I'm just gonna move on. But Trisha's faith in the organization and in her own motives begins to falter when she's confronted by Baby A, the first universal sleep donor, and the mysterious donor Y. Sleep donation explores a world facing the end of sleep as we know it, where night worlds offer black market remedies to the desperate and sleep deprived, and where even the act of making a gift is not as simple as it appears.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. I That's kind of unique. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that before.
No, me neither. I really like that there's so many different types of plague.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love all the plagues that could happen.
The only like plague books that I've read were I don't know if you've ever read the Michael Grant one. I guess it's more of an apocalypse one. I've only read zombie
Yeah, sometimes they're
like
pretty
plague.
hand in hand. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I don't know. This kind of reminds me of like something the opposite of like the Sandman.
I haven't
Now
seen
no
it.
one's sleeping. It's super good. The graphic novels are really good too, but this is like the other end of the spectrum. No one can
Okay.
sleep. That
So is in the
sucks.
Sandman they're all sleeping?
Yeah, it's like a sleep curse. And then
Oh,
you're just your
dang.
body is in the real world and then you're off in like the sleep dimension and there's some crazy stuff that can happen. So,
Well, I might have to add
yeah,
that to my list. You
it's
add
good.
Last of Us, I'll add
Yeah,
Sandman. We'll collaborate and talk about it.
sounds good.
Okay, this next. Oh no, I read this one, so it's your
Yep.
turn. This is a
Okay.
nonfiction, which is kind of cool.
Okay, so maybe it'll be something that I just love.
Yeah.
This one is called Sleepover, an oral history of the apocalypse. That sounds interesting. Okay, let's see. So, remember what it's like to last an entire night without sleep? That dull but constant headache, the feeling of your brain on edge, how easily irritated you were, how difficult it was to concentrate even on seemingly menial tasks. It was just a single restless night, but everything fell just a little bit harder to do, and the only real comfort was knowing your head would finally hit the pillow at the end of the day, and when you awoke the next morning, everything would return to normal. But what if sleep didn't come the next night or the night after? What might happen if you, your friends and family, your coworkers, the strangers you pass on the street, all slowly begin to realize that rest might never come again? How slowly might the world fall apart? How long would it take for a society without sleep to descend into chaos? I think they're about to tell us.
I think so.
Sleepover is a collection of walking nightmares, a scrapbook of the haunting and poignant stories from those trapped in a world where the pillars of society are crumbling and madness is slowly descending on a planet without rest. Online vigilantism turns social media into a deadly gamble. A freelance journalist grapples with the ethics of turning in footage of mass suicide. A kidnapped hypnotist is held hostage by those at wits' end for a cure. In Sleepover, these stories are just the beginning. Before the longest day, the world record was 11 days without sleep. It turns out most of us can go much longer. So this sounds like it might be a collection of like almost like essays about different
I was wrong.
situations.
It's not nonfiction.
It's not okay. Okay, I was gonna say, what is going on?
You're like,
Why
there
haven't
was
I
a
heard
sleep plague and a
what?
dancing plague.
When did I not hear of this one? Okay.
No, the so it's told like, have you read World War Z?
I've seen the movie with Brad Pitt.
They're very different,
Okay.
unfortunately. Well, pros and cons, because the book is fantastic, but it's
Okay.
told like not each paragraph, each chapter is like from it's as if they're orally recording a story.
Oh,
So
okay.
they're like, Japan, this date, here's their story. This
Right.
place, that date, their story. And they don't really have to meet up, but there is somehow a climax and like falling
Right.
action and all that. But this is
Okay.
the same kind of thing. It says it's told like World War Z. So I imagine
Right.
it'll be like, this person experienced this and this is their story, and then kind of connect them
Yeah.
a little. But
Okay, yeah, I get what you're talking about there. That is very interesting, and I'm
yeah.
happy it's fiction.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Me too. I do It's interesting though that I somehow pulled two sleep
Yeah.
ones. Mm.
Or I guess maybe that's just it kind of does sound like a nightmare, a sleep
Mhm.
plague.
Yeah.
Uh because the brain without sleep is just a mess. Even just like one night without sleep, a mess. So I can't imagine over 11 days
Yeah.
more than that.
Don't quote me on this, but I read somewhere, who knows, it could have been a TikTok. It could just be completely making things up. But there is a point where you haven't had enough how long you have to be awake for it to be considered a DUI? Like how impaired are you? And I
Yeah.
want to say it was like they said it was like 18 hours, and I was like, that can't be right, because
Yeah.
I'm very curious what the actual number would be for
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. Even like I've been up for like, let's say 24 hours before, especially when I was younger, when I was
that.
in
Yeah.
high school. And really just it causes a disruption to your whole
Oh
life. And
yeah.
it doesn't feel good. So to me, it wouldn't be surprising getting a DUI like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm curious how they would. Anyways, I'm curious how
Yeah.
that would actually play out. But yeah,
Sounds like a cool book,
it
especially
does.
knowing it's fiction.
Yes, yeah. This next one, I really like the cover.
Me too.
For our audio listeners, it looks like it's actual paper cutouts that are in the shape of like flame, but they're all overlapping and they're different colors. Anyways, this is the Flame Alphabet by Ben Marcus. Okay, a terrible epidemic has struck the country, and the sound of children's speech has become lethal. Radio transmissions from strange sources indicate that people are going into hiding. All Sam and Claire need to do is look around the neighborhood. In the park, parents wither beneath the powerful screams of their children. At night, suburban side streets become routes of shameful escape for fathers trying to get outside of the radius of affliction. With Claire nearing collapse, it seems their only means of survival is to flee from their daughter Esther. Esther? Yeah. Who laughs at parent Oh no! Esther, who laughs at her parents' sickness, unaware that in just a few years she too will be susceptible to the language toxicity. But Sam and Claire find it isn't so easy to leave the daughter they still love, even as they waste away from her malevolent speech. On the eve of their departure, Claire mysteriously disappears, and Sam, determined to find a cure for this new toxic language, presses on alone into a world beyond recognition. Another plague that I'm glad is not real.
Yeah, me too. That one honestly sounds super cool, this one.
Yeah.
Um, what an awful kid.
Yeah. She's just like laughing at them dying.
Yeah, that's horrible. That's another one that I would probably add to my list. That sounds super cool. Really unique concept, I think.
Yeah, I'm really
Yeah.
curious with this one how they get infected.
Yeah.
Because if they just like they just boom 18, it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Or like how it starts
Yeah,
and like how the parents like initially find out and react to this. Super interesting.
yeah. There's a lot of possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah. Add in that one.
Woohoo!
Okay.
This is our last
And
one.
yeah, looks like final one here is called Survivor Song. And this one is by Paul Tremblay. And the description goes like this. In a matter of weeks, Massachusetts has been overrun by an insidious rabies. I'm
Ew.
terrified of rabies. So it's rabies-like virus that is
Mm.
spread by saliva. But
Oh,
unlike rabies, the disease has a terrifyingly short incubation period of an hour or less. Those
whoa.
infected quickly lose their minds and are driven to bite and infect as many others as they can before they inevitably succumb. Hospitals are inundated with the sick and dying, and hysteria has taken hold. To try to limit its spread, the Commonwealth is under quarantine and curfew, but society is breaking down and the government's emergency protocols are faltering. Dr. Romola Rams Sherman, a soft spoken pediatrician in her mid 30s, receives a frantic phone call from Natalie, a friend who is 8 months pregnant. Natalie's husband has been killed, viciously attacked by an infected neighbor, and in a failed attempt to save him, Natalie too was bitten. Natalie's only chance of survival is to get to the hospital as quickly as possible to receive a rabies vaccine. The clock is ticking for her and for her unborn child. Natalie's fight for life becomes a desperate odyssey as she and Rams make their way through a hostile landscape filled with the dangers beyond their worst nightmares. Terrifying, strange, and sometimes deadly challenges that push them to the brink. Woof,
Whoa.
again.
Yeah. Whoa. So this is interesting.
Kind of
So
zombie like?
very zombie-like, but
Yeah.
it's always interesting too when they write a zombie book to see how they describe the zombie.
Yeah.
They're like
Yeah.
the walkers, and you're like, it's
Yeah.
a zombie.
Also, like, are they different? Is this a unique
Mm-hmm.
kind of zombie that we haven't seen before?
Mm-hmm.
As a zombie fan, I am interested.
All right.
Yep.
Report back.
Yeah. I'm gonna have a long list after today. So I'm
Like
gonna
I
have
said,
like
it's a
fever
problem.
dreams. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have nightmares after reading these books.
I hope you don't.
At least I'll be sleeping
Yay!
because
It'll
there's
be
no sleep like in real life.
true. True. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well, that being said, thank you so much for being on this episode with me. Hopefully, we'll be able to do some in the future again. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I will wrap us up. So thank you again, everybody, for listening. Make sure to check out our show notes in case you missed any titles or authors' names. And that is on www.tbplofftheshelf.com. You can also find us on social media. We're at tbaypl across the board. Do all those likings, those commentings, those subscribings, and we